Right, well, welcome. My name is Melissa Sheehane. I am a member of the Climate Hub Partnership Project grant team, and I'm here today with Marcy Dodd, one of our cohort participants. She's a fifth grade science teacher from Rogers Elementary School in Rogers, Texas, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the lesson she did with her fifth graders on grassland ecosystems. I'll turn it over to you, Marcy.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. We did an introduction to the grasslands ecosystem with my fifth grade class this year. It was a project that lasted over 6 weeks. We kind of did it from the very beginning to the very end. I aligned the TEKs for life science with this project. It was to make the students aware of different types of grasslands and their needs, and to touch on land management practices like controlled burning. Our school district recently adopted the STEM Scopes science program, and they use the 5 E lesson plan to introduce things. And so on the screen now, you'll see the engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. This is kind of just a little overview of what the lesson entailed over this past 6 weeks.
And the great thing about this 5E model is the lesson plan is included with this voiceover presentation. So you'll have access to all elements of what this looked like in practice. All right, we'll move on and kind of talk about how did you get this started? Where did you begin with the kids when you were working with them?
Okay. Well, I needed to start at the very beginning. So we read a story about what if there were no bees? And the reason I picked this book is because we have an area beekeeper in our district that likes to come and talk to the kids about what they do. There's not a whole lot of big commercial businesses in our small town. So I picked bees and how the grasslands and ecosystems affected how bees were important in our area. And I picked this because of the local farm, and then I also picked it because the kids could observe bees on our playground, and so I could bring real life things into the classroom and we could have real conversations. It was not until I read this story that I learned that the kids didn't have a lot of background with grasslands. And so I knew that we were going to need to start from the very beginning with the seed and to watch certain things, certain plants grow.
I think this is where your lesson really came to life, and the kids were definitely into it based on what you've shared with me. So tell us a little bit about your native plant demonstration and how you got that off the ground. And, why did you do 2 demonstrations?
Okay. All right. Well, the first greenhouse that I got together was just a little tabletop desk greenhouse, and the kids were able to put it together, and they had hands on, and they all planted seeds that they could watch grow. And then the hydro garden was something that they had mentioned in one of our lessons in STEM Scopes. And so the kids wanted to kind of compare and contrast what kind of plants grew best with water versus what kind of plants grew best with soil. And we could see how they interacted with the two sources. We added things like lettuce and strawberries to the hydro garden so that they could see, as far as human consumption, how the hydro garden was good. And then for more animal consumption, we realized that the grasses that we planted really needed soil to grow properly. And so that was good, because then that would later lead me into how to maintain soil and how to keep it healthy so that the native grasses could grow. So that was kind of a good thing to do. when we first started, I didn't think that there would be much difference, but the demonstration did show that there were some plants that grew better with uh, the water, the hydro gardens, and some that really needed soil to be maintained in order for them to grow properly. And they loved it. The kids wanted to stay in at recess to water the plants and take care of them. They kind of they named them. They identified with the ones that they planted, and so they really took care of them. And it was a good project.
One thing that struck me, Marcy, when you were talking about the kids, what types of kids really gravitated to being the ones that wanted to engage more?
My tactile kinesthetic learners, the ones that don't really school's not their favorite subject. It was really kind of fun to watch them kind of spearhead this, and they really made this their own project. And so it was the kind of the hard to reach kids that seemed to engage with these tactile kinesthetic things.
That's great. That's great. All right. One thing that I really valued in you being trying to think outside the box and bringing some of this content to life, that we worked with you guys on through this project was how you pulled in support and guest speakers to really, keep the energy, with the length of time you spent 6 weeks, because obviously it takes time to plant the plants and watch them grow. You can't just plant them overnight and you're ready to do your lesson the next day. So it was a time intensive process, but you were able to kind of pepper in some different partners throughout this experience. So tell us a little bit about who supported your lessons and why you pulled them in.
We had local farm supplies that donated seeds for us to grow. So we had blue stem and clover, and we had oats, and we had Bermuda grasses that our local farm supply donated to us. And so we had plenty of seeds to work with, so that we could get the process, get the things growing. And then when our volunteer fire department came out and talked to the kids during Fire Prevention Week, I was able to talk to them a little bit to include uh, controlled burning in their talk with the kids. And so they were able to now take things that we were learning in the classroom, and they were able to mesh that with something that they had heard year after year during Fire Prevention Week, maybe with a different spin, that maybe fires aren't all bad and that sometimes they can do good things. And so that was kind of a good thing. The beekeeper, of course, came and just confirmed everything that the book that we used for introduction had said. And the kids were able he brought some honey samples and things for the kids to have. And so that kept them engaged. And then our local FFA, they have competitions with grass recognition and things like that. And they came and helped the kids do a little slide presentation, put something together. They went outside and took pictures, and they came in, and I helped them identify some of the grasses that they had found just around the school building. And so it takes a village to raise a child, and this was a project that kind of incorporated lots of village.
That's great. It sounds like the kids really were inquisitive and had lots of questions for the different speakers that came in.
Yes, they did, and they were all good questions. They were all engaged, and it was fun to watch the interaction between the speakers and the kids.
Great. Um, Lastly, I know in hearing you discuss your presentation or your lesson plan over the course of those 6 weeks, I kind of tried to see, if you were to take a step back, what are some key points that really summarizes what you'd like to share with another educator who would consider implementing a lesson like this? So talk to us a little bit about some of those big picture takeaways.
Okay, well, when I was reading the book with the kids, I realized that they did not have a lot of prior knowledge or background to what grasses were, or why they were even important. And so one of the things is to never start too, or don't start too big. Make sure that they have a good understanding of how seeds grow, why, and how they produce seeds, and why it's important for the ground to be healthy. So always start at the very beginning, even when you think that they know more than they do. Hands-on activities are always important. Once you can see it and feel it and touch it, then the kids become real invested in it, and they so as much hands-on things that you can plan in a lesson is probably really, really good. Let's see, guided exploration and discussions. I mean, the top two just lead into this. And so once the kids start having some understanding of what's going on, then they can come up with some really good questions, and that leads to better understanding of everything. And like I said, they always like a visitor to come in and talk to them about things, and that just makes it real world. And so the more real you can make it, the better the lesson, in my opinion. And then all of the things help the kids to have a better understanding of what you're trying to teach them. So the more real you can make it, the better.
I know that you brought in that local volunteer fire department, because I know the spirit of the grant too is to trying to figure out how do we educate more about climate smart ag practices. And it seemed like that was a natural fit because you all were also doing kind of fire prevention that spring. If,
Yes.
if that serves my memory correctly, and that allowed you to have some conversations of, you know, what are, there's definitely firefighters that go out and fight fires for to support our local community that are challenges that are people are facing, but you also sometimes there's fires that are strategically created, like controlled or prescribed fires to help maintain those healthy grasslands. And what kind of epiphanies did some of your kids have, and especially some of those ones from local like ranching backgrounds?
Well, it was interesting because when the kids, when the, they are used to stop, drop, and roll, and fires are bad. And so when they were able to start asking questions about, can fires be good, then that's when they were able to say yes, and they were able to explain to them a little bit on how controlled burns can happen, and that not all fires are bad, and they don't have to be scary and something that you run away from, that it can be something that is useful and productive.
That's, that's great. Well, I know that the students definitely were able to make a lot of real world connections, and reflect on all the different layers that you integrated from the start with bees to plants to guest speakers to kind of thinking about fire and what its role is and soil health. And so I just want to thank you, Marcy, for engaging with these kids in such interactive and high impact ways. So thank you for your time, and um, I bet your lesson will inspire other teachers to get creative like you did.
All right. Well, Melissa, thank you. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to, and all the support that you've given me, in getting this project going. And the kids have had a good time, and I think they definitely know more than they did at the beginning.
That's great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.